You know, some people have heard, some people haven't, what Pastor Padula just said, and that is that I sued the federal government. And I will tell you this, it's the only reason why I'm here in front of you today. Otherwise, you would have never heard of Sheriff Mack. I would not have been on the lecture circuit. Since that time, I've been to all 50 states. I've written 7 books. And I've probably done hundreds and hundreds of public presentations all over the country. There's only 2 states. I've been to, like I said, all states, but there's only 2 states I haven't done presentations in. And I've done lots of them in Idaho, all over the place. The most I've actually done is California and Texas. So California still has a lot of good people. You know, they got a bad rep, but they've got a lot of good people. They're trying everything they can to restore some liberty. But that's what we're doing nationwide. We want to be free, and we want the Constitution to mean something. And to most politicians, especially in Washington, D.C., it doesn't mean a thing. Their political agenda and what they want to do is all that matters. So even though, for instance, the Constitution forbids gun control in the United States of America. Let's be real serious here about it. Let's make it real clear. Gun control in the United States of America is against the law. Period. And you know that the federal government, especially the federal government, has no skin in the game whatsoever except one thing. To guarantee it. To guarantee your right to keep and bear arms. That's the only skin they have in the game at all. That's their responsibility with all of our rights, actually, but they have very little to do with that one, except to make sure that it is guaranteed. The states really are where it's the play. That's where it plays out. Okay? Otherwise, the federal government doesn't have any business with gun shows or where you carry a gun or if it's open or concealed or any of that. It's none of their business. And when I was on with Chris Matthews on, what was it, Hardball? Yeah, Hardball. This is about, gosh, I don't know, 17 years ago or so. It was a long time. And I was at a meeting in California, but I had to break to get on with Chris Matthews on, what was he, CNN, MSNBC, whatever he was. One of those lying networks, you know. And I told him then, and if you've ever watched the Sheriff Mack show on Brightown TV, we do a play on that, and it says, I'm talking with Chris Matthews, and I said, it's none of their business what kind of gun I am. And it isn't. The federal government has absolutely nothing to do with it. Nothing. But then, why do they keep doing it? Because the states keep allowing it. And we keep allowing it. And we've got to get back to the checks and balances that were constitutionally and rightfully there. So, why did I sue the federal government? I think the best job I ever had in my life is I got to be sheriff in my hometown, where I grew up, where my dad was an FBI agent for about 30 years. I loved it. If you'd have ever told me that I was going to be, growing up, I was going to be the sheriff in my hometown, I'd have told you you're crazy. There's just no way that's ever going to happen. But it did, and there was a lot of miracles that happened to make that happen. And I was, that was a favorite job, and that's all I wanted to be. I got my dream job, and I wanted to retire from there, and I wanted to make sure people lived in a free county. And something happened to me when I married my wife. I married her family, and they were a bunch of constitutionalists. And they started teaching me. And I was arguing with them most of the time. I said, no way. And then I started doing my own study, and I found out they were right just about every single time. And I had a hard time telling that to my mother-in-law. But I loved her, and she's a great lady, and she just never knew when to quit, though. She never took no for an answer. That's why she was such a good salesman. And I look back on my life with them, and it was very inspired. And so, at one point, I was writing a lady a ticket one day, and I had an epiphany. And that actually is covered in this book. The proper role of law enforcement. And then the subtitle is, what every citizen should know, what every cop should believe. And this is only 30 pages. You know, it's really small. But it tells that story in there, and it's about my conversion. Am I talking here about my conversion to the gospel? No. I'm talking about the gospel of freedom and the gospel of the Constitution. And I believe, without question, that the Constitution was inspired by Almighty God. I felt that while I was studying, and I said, man, this is really godly stuff. This is godly principle. And so I started studying the Constitution, and I was totally converted to the Constitution. And I said, no wonder we're in so much trouble in America. And when I came to that realization, that was way back in the 80s. That's like 1983, and I just finished being an undercover cop. Ugh. I don't care what they say. That is horrible, and I hated it. I was totally undercover. I had a different name, different driver's license. I had 3 little kids at home. My wife was a single mom, but we couldn't be seen in public together, ever. Not church, not nothing. And so she was like a single mom. And I was like a bar hopper. I just was out. Oh, I hated that. But I learned a lot. And after I finished that, I'm back on patrol, and I have this epiphany with this lady, and I said, why do we have government? Why am I doing this to this lady? Yeah, she ran the stop sign. But I'm the one in the wrong. Me, a police officer, a patrol officer. I was in the wrong. Because I was really into this, and Provo Police didn't, that's where I started, Provo Police in Utah. They didn't have a quota system for tickets, but it was maybe even worse than a quota system. Because they expected us to be out there writing tickets. And if you came back with no tickets, your sergeant's going to let you have it. And so I didn't want to play second string with writing tickets, and I was a ticket writing son of a gun. I wrote a lot of them. But I changed when this lady ran that stop sign. I said, why am I doing this to this lady? She obviously can't afford this ticket. I don't care if it was a $5 ticket. She was driving a beat-up old Datsun compact station wagon with primer gray showing through, bald tires. 5 or 6 kids, all crying and acting up. And I said, Mack, why are you doing this to this lady? If I was a public servant, this was right next to Franklin Elementary School where she ran the stop sign. Nobody was around. I was the only living thing in my patrol car. It was the only living thing. And she couldn't even see me in the patrol car because she was so busy trying to settle her kids down. And so I said, Mack, have you completely lost your humanity? Are you helping this family? Is anything you're doing here today or giving her this ticket helping her family? Why didn't you tell her, hey, when you're trying to settle your kids down, pull over. Look, there's a school right here. Why don't you let the kids go over there and play? This is before we made our schools look like prisons and had a big fence. Didn't have a fence. Go and let your kids play and get some of that Tasmanian devil energy out of them. And so, no, I want another ticket. And she ran the stop sign. She's getting a ticket. Well, she didn't. I wrote the ticket, but I didn't give it to her. And I walked away with the ticket. Drove back to the police station and tore the ticket up and threw it in there. And I said, I want to know why we have law enforcement. I want to know why we're doing this. And so I ran smack in the face of the oath of office. And I asked the city clerk, when I took this job, did I take an oath? And she said, yes, you signed it. I said, I did? I didn't even remember signing it. And she made me a copy. It was in my personnel file. I said, yep, I signed it. And I thought, I'm not going to keep this job anymore. I'm not going to be a liar and a hypocrite. And right before I went to turn in my uniform, I kind of had this, guys, you know what I'm talking about. You've been married for a while. Ben, you've been married for a while. You know, your wife becomes your subconscious. And so before I went in to turn my, seriously, I'm taking off my Sam Brown, I'm taking off my gun belt, I'm taking off my badge, and I'm leaving. This is how bad I felt. But then I thought, how's it going to go when I get home and there's a pretty little blonde girl, and she asks me, what are you doing? And I tell her, she goes, so let me see if I got this straight, Matt. You're having a case of the guilt because you're a liar and a hypocrite. Yeah, I said, I'm smart, I'm strong, well, I'm sort of smart, but I'm strong and I'll get another job, I'm still young, you know, let it go. And she goes, could you consider one thing for me? And I said, yeah. Now remember, she's not even there. I'm just having this conversation with her, you know? And so she goes, could you keep your job and just stop being a liar and a hypocrite? Repentance. Why didn't I think of that? And I said, you see how you ladies are? You win the argument and you're not even there. See, that's how this is. And so I dedicated myself to the Constitution from then on. And I got other assignments, and you know, I would bring this as subject up. You know, why are we writing so many tickets? Because the city council wants the money. I said, what does that have to do with how we're treating people? We're here to serve them. And is there a way that we could make the traffic flow a lot better without writing tickets? You know? Are we really that narrow-minded that we can't come up with something more creative that helps the community, helps the flow of traffic, helps safety, without gouging the taxpayers that are already over gouged anyway? So, my wife's crazy parents, in about 1986 and 87, started lobbying me and calling me and my wife and telling us that we had to move home to Arizona, 750 miles away, and run for sheriff. And neither one of them, nobody wanted to. Not the kids, not me, not my wife, no. And so finally, her mom would keep calling, and I just handed the phone to my wife. She'd leave him alone. She would get mad at her mom and yell at her. Leave us alone, we're not coming home. And finally, we decided to do a pro and con list of the reasons why we couldn't come home. There's like 25 reasons why we couldn't do it. And there was a couple of reasons why, okay, you know, it'd be nice to be close to both grandparents. And it would be great to be sheriff in my hometown. And that's it. It's over. The worst thing was I could move home, run for sheriff, lose, and be unemployed. And that really had a big impact on us. But one day I went to work on something. I was a detective at this time, but I was in uniform for something, which means there was a parade or something. I don't know. I don't remember what. And I kept walking around the house, and my wife was walking around the house, and we weren't saying anything to each other, and something was just happening, something was going on. And we kept, you know, looking at each other, you know, and she's looking at me, and I'm like, okay, what are you thinking? She goes, what are you thinking? And I said, this is the last time I'm ever going to wear this uniform. We're moving home to run for sheriff. She goes, yeah, I know. We didn't want to. We still didn't want to. So, I won the race, and it was really a horrible time, and people were attacking my wife and me, my family. Never attacked my dad. Maybe a couple of law enforcement officers said, your dad was an okay FBI agent, but he wouldn't be a good sheriff. And I said, he's not running. I am, and I said, I think I'll be able to do fine. But I hadn't even lived there for 12 years. And I came back home and said, hey, I'm an educated lawman, former undercover narcotics agent. You gotta have somebody who knows the drug problem. And I was new blood and I was old blood at the same time, and people liked that. I won, and I was reelected in 1992. I know what you're thinking, man, this guy's really old. No, and sometimes I feel that way, but so then after I won the second election, my wife and I are talking a lot about this. Why this miracle election and position and job, why did this happen? And she and I would talk about it and we go, I don't know, what was it for? And then we're channel surfing one night, and there's Bubba, Bill Clinton, signing something, and I go, wait, let's see what he's doing. And he was left-handed, and he used 13 pens to sign the Brady Bill into law, or into pretend legislation, as the Declaration of Independence calls it. And I don't remember why he used 13 pens, I don't care. But he said something that night. He says, the Brady Bill will make America so safe that even our nation's police officers won't need to carry guns anymore. No. Yeah. I said, I would love to party with Bill Clinton, man. He's got to be a fun guy, because he was so funny. And I was laughing my head off at him when he said that. These guys, these politicians in Washington, D.C. especially, will lie about anything to what? Promote what they're doing. And he's giving this big lie to everybody. And so, I wasn't worried about it. I'm not suing him because of that statement. But then on January 21st, 1994, we're having a Sheriff's Association meeting in Phoenix, and we only have 15 sheriffs, 15 sheriffs in Arizona, and 13 of us are there, and 3 agents of the BATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the federal bureaucracy that is to oversee the possession of guns nationwide and maybe worldwide, and stop people from having all these horrible guns and whatnot. Totally illegal bureaucracy, 100% illegal. And they'll come into your state and act like they own all the FFLs and firearms, and they'll act like they own all the gun shows, and they'll act like they own you. They're just like the other bureaucracy, no different. IRS, EPA, Army Corps of Engineers. You know. I remember the Sackett family wanted to build on their own land here in Idaho. And the EPA told them that they were going to be fined $35,000 a day, and that they couldn't touch their land because it had a waterway on it. Right here. Who defended them? Not the sheriff. They were left to their own. They had to sue to build on their own property. And EPA said they had to take down what it was and put all the shrubbery back that they cleared off. Yeah, how do you do that? So, this is just one of the small things that is run amok federal government out of control stuff. And if somebody doesn't get in the way, they're going to think they own every little thing, and oh, they already do. Everything is their business. Everything is up to them. Do you know what? It's going to be illegal, and you're probably going to go to jail very soon if you drive a car that has fossil fuels. And if you think that it's up to you to have a gas stove in your house, that's coming to an end very soon. Who's going to stop that crap? Good question. Yeah, it is. And I'm here to give you the answer. Because it comes in my Supreme Court decision. And then I've been called everything under the sun and a lot more. I've been called so many things that I can't even keep track of it anymore. And one guy that stalks me all across the country has tried to stop this event. And he's trying to stop the event that we're having Wednesday in Las Vegas. And he's really trying to stop that one because, and all of you are invited to come to Las Vegas on Wednesday because you'll love it, first of all. We have Mike Lindell coming with his lawyers to give the information as to what he's trying to do, the points that he's going to make, that he's making with his lawyers to the United States Supreme Court about election fraud. Boy, I don't care if you think that he's a nut or not, you really have to admire him. He has lost millions and millions on his business. And he's doing this because it's the right thing to do. He totally believes it. He knows he has the evidence. And I've met with him before. And I've met with the people of True the Vote. And we're dealing with that. And we recommended to every sheriff in the country to investigate his county to make sure that the election was on the up and up. And we had maybe about 7 or 8 sheriffs actually do it. And so Darleaf has been investigating it before the 22 election. He's been investigating in Michigan. So what did Michigan try to do? They tried to get him removed as sheriff. They tried to indict him, which means they tried to arrest him. And he beat all that. And he's going to be there to give us an update on his investigation. And then Steve Bannon was coming. I think he's gotten busy or changed his mind. And then General Flynn will be there. And I think really the best speakers are going to be the sheriffs. So the one that maybe Mike Lindell's pretty powerful too. Well, we have a sheriff coming from New Mexico, Sheriff Glenn Hamilton, who just retired. I didn't know he was retired when I called him. I said, hey, oh, you didn't know he retired? He and his pastor did a tour around the country called the Sheriff Shepherd Show. The Sheriff Shepherd Show. And you want to know why? Because his pastor called him and said, I'm not going to shut down. And I want to know if you'll defend me and you'll protect me from being shut down. And Sheriff Hamilton said, this is Sierra County in New Mexico. He said, I will do that even if I have to go to jail myself. That's the right answer. And you want to know why it's the right answer? Because for every branch of government and for every employee in the government, they have one ultimate responsibility. Uphold the Constitution. Even maybe beyond that. To protect liberty. Which if we go by the Constitution, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to still give you that. But liberty is first. It supersedes any and all mandates or regulations or policies. And you know that some of this stuff just comes from bureaucrats. It doesn't have any legislative authority behind a lot of this. The BATF is now making up another policy that you can't sell a gun to anybody, and if you do, you're going to jail. That just was announced yesterday. And so the EPA, they make up this stuff about a waterway so the Sackett family would have to spend all that money. And so when the BATF showed up at our meeting and they started reading this 25-page document that he handed each sheriff, they said, this document represents your marching orders from Congress and the President as to what you have to do to enforce the Brady Bill. And the sheriffs were looking at each other and going, what? And then it got a lot worse. The profanity in that room was really extraordinary. And it wasn't coming from me. First of all, I don't use much profanity at all. And my kids and my wife know that. But I was ready to. I was ready to join these other older sheriffs. I was the younger sheriff in the state. And finally, I didn't say much, but then I asked one of the VHF guys, I said, you guys know we don't work for you, right? We don't work for you. And he goes, well, you would think that. But Congress passed a law. And so you're just going to have to kind of do the best you can. I said, I don't care if Congress passed 500 laws. We don't work for you. You can't, even with this law. Can you fire me? Can you hire me? Well, no, but we can put you in jail. So there's a threat of arrest associated with the Brady bill. Do you know that every single news outlet in America that's interviewed me, Channel 5, NBC, or CNN, Sarah Sidner, the liar that came to my home, interviewed me just a year and a half ago, and Politico, and the Daily Beast. The Daily Beast. That's a news agency. Southern Poverty Law Center, Anti-Defamation League, and boy, if they defamed me bad. And I even called them. I sent them an email and said, "You guys have really defamed me. I was wondering if maybe we could talk about it sometime." Oh no, they don't want to do that. Mary McCord, some constitutional attorney that works for Georgetown University, and she goes on the road explaining how things are constitutional or not, and boy, she got a hold of my case, and man, she just ripped it apart and ripped me apart. Well, I'm going to show you that case. I'm going to show you what the United States Supreme Court said about this, because they said, no, the federal government can't tell the sheriff what to do. In fact, they can't tell anybody in your state what to do. Never heard that, did you? Well, we're going to go over that. So, my battery's going out. I thought we just did new batteries.
Those are brand new batteries.
Those are brand new batteries. Am I talking too far? What shows that the battery isn't blinking? Is it off?
Yeah, the little light's on.
They just did new batteries in. Testing. You don't even need that.
Well,
do I need it?
Well, for his
maybe
recording, he's live streaming.
Are you just gonna give me? You just gonna give me that?
I'll give it this, but I need batteries too.
Okay, so
Probably not.
so testing. It's green, right? Okay. Is that on? Green tape. Testing. Channel 10. Channel 10. Okay. I'd like to go back to that if we could. I use my hands a lot. So we'll see. But anyway, so I didn't know what I was going to do when I left that meeting, and I had a 3-hour drive to go back home, and I was just brooding about this the whole time. Arresting us if we failed to comply? So it was we were looking at a year in jail and a $10,000 fine or both. And so every sheriff in there was so mad about it that you wouldn't believe how mad they were. But by the end of the day, the president of the association went around to every sheriff, all 13 of us. And it seemed like, I don't know, maybe my memory's not perfect on that. Obviously, it was a long time ago. But it seemed like I was the last one to say what I wanted to say. And about 6 or 7 sheriffs said, I don't like this. This is crazy. So the federal government, arrogant, blah, blah, blah. And more cuss words. And then it came to me and I said, but they said, but there's nothing we can do about it. And they said this over and over. You can't fight City Hall. Who wants you to believe that? City Hall. Congress wants you to believe that. You can't fight us. You can't stop us. We can do anything we want. And does the federal government already believe that? Oh, absolutely they do. They'll tell you. Every day you get another thing from them that they can do anything they want. And they're the only people that can tell you how far their authority can go. Pretty good setup, isn't it? And the check and balance system that is in the Constitution and in our entire system of government all across the country completely disagrees with that. But who's supposed to enforce that? And who's supposed to protect you from this kind of government? And so we're going to go over that big time. So when I pulled up in my house, it hit me that I'm going to sue my own government. And then I said, no, I'm not. Because when I go in that house, the pretty little blonde girl is going to say, you're crazy, go golfing, and don't even bring that subject up again. Never talk about that in this house again. That's what she was telling me. She must have been having a bad hair day. Because it was, again, like we're on the same wavelength again. And she says, maybe now we know why you were supposed to be sheriff. I think this is it. And I said, it's going to cost us everything. She goes, yeah, they might, but this is what we're supposed to be doing. So the very next day, I went to talk to a lawyer downtown, a friend of mine. He told me I was crazy, told me not to even bring it up again. Well, everything I thought my wife was going to say. So I was really discouraged. I went back to the office, and my undersheriff comes in, and I go, Mom, you're a lifetime member of the NRA, and you're a gun collector. He goes, yeah. And I said, do they have a toll-free number where you can call and get advice? They have a toll-free number, he gave it to me. I called it, and I got passed around like just crazy. It was almost like calling the government. So finally, though, I ended up in the room, I ended up on the phone with Richard Gardner. And he was a lawyer for the NRA. And I told him who I was and what I wanted to do. And the next line out of his mouth changed my life forever. He said, Sheriff, we've already been preparing the paperwork on this case, and we've been praying that you would call. And I said, yeah, I was singing hallelujah then too, believe me. And so I got real confident. I go, good, we're going to finally prove the Second Amendment. He goes, Sheriff, we're not even suing on the Second Amendment, so just calm down. I said, well, what paperwork are you preparing? He said, 10th Amendment. We're going to protect the second with the 10th because they have no authority to tell you to do anything. And then I go, even better. Let's do it. So I hired my own lawyer, though, and I told the NRA, I said, I want my own counsel. They said, that's fine. We'll work with your lawyer. I said, do you know one out here in Arizona that knows and understands the Constitution, Second Amendment? He goes, sure do. He used to work for us, Dave Hardy in Tucson. So I called Hardy, retained him as my lawyer, and then my lawyer with the NRA lawyers filed in federal district court in Tucson, Arizona, Mack v. U.S., and it was the very day that Brady Bill took effect, February 28, 1994. And 2 weeks later, this is still on. 2 weeks later, Howard Menzenbaum introduced Brady Bill 2. And we started looking into it, and there were 5 Brady bills scheduled to be passed 1 year after the other until the Second Amendment was gone. And Brady Bill 2, you've heard of this since then several times because they've tried to do it again. Brady Bill 2 was going to serialize ammunition and regulate ammunition out of existence. Then you can buy any gun you want. But then how would it regulate making your own ammo? So anyway, we do know that the IRS and other agencies are buying up all the ammo. Price of ammo's gone up. It's very scarce. In fact, there was a time where you couldn't get it. Very difficult to get it at all. So this is nothing new, and they're going to keep trying, and they're still trying. But we bought the Second Amendment sometime. So we made the sheriffs, and there were 6 others who joined me in the lawsuit. And Sheriff Prince from Montana his name is attached to the case, actually more than mine. But we were the two at the court, and I'll show you some documentation of that as we go along. But I was the primary litigant in it. I started the whole thing. Prince didn't even call me when he joined it, which was fine with me. I heard it on CBS News when I was driving to work one morning. Another sheriff has filed the same lawsuit as some crazy sheriff in Arizona did. And so then we got to be good friends, and he and I were invited to be on the Phil Donahue show just a few weeks later. And that went really well. I actually had a fun time. And Handgun Control Incorporated and Sarah Brady and all the big shot lawyers. And then here's two small town sheriffs dealing with these big time lawyers. And we won. And the biggest issue they had a problem with is when I said, I'm an elected official, I'm elected by for and of the people, and the federal government cannot tell me what to do. And the lawyer goes, well, yeah, they can. You have to report crime to the FBI. I said, what, am I going to go to jail too if I don't file my report to the FBI? I said, I don't have to file that. But I try to help nationwide statistics, and I file it. But they can't put me in jail, and they can't make me. I cooperate with them, even though they're not in charge of that either. But anyway, it was a fun time. Well, let's go back. Now let's get into the case. Because this is the most amazing, powerful 10th Amendment decision in the history of our country. And just so you know, there has never been a time, except for this, in American history where sheriffs sued the federal government and won. Hasn't happened before, hasn't happened since, and this case, just so you know, has never been rescinded. And it's never been altered. Now, what they wanted to do with the case is make sure nobody knew about it. When we filed, we got all sorts of press. When we won, very little, and the case just died. So I lost my third election because of this case, and I didn't win at the Supreme Court until about 9 months after I lost. And people said, oh, he's going to lose, he's just wasting his time. And I agreed. I didn't think we were going to win. I never even thought we were going to go to the Supreme Court. But the miracle did happen. And even more miraculous is that we won. And it was a 5-4 split. The 4 Democrats sided with Clinton, the 5 Republicans sided with me. And I'm going, why are we playing politics with this? We're supposed to be just... When was the last time you saw any Republican or Democrat in the Supreme Court specifically mention the line in the Constitution that they were defending when they made their decision? They don't. But Scalia did. And Scalia, amazingly, this is a highlighted version. This is the most important book you could get from me. Okay? This is a 16 little page booklet that does a highlight. I put all the highlights, the best parts of this case, I put in this little book. And I studied for days the Cornell University review of the case. But it had word for word what each justice said, and it had word for word what the entire ruling was, written by Justice Scalia, Antonin Scalia. But Scalia says this in his opening statement to introduce the issue. He says this, because there is no constitutional text speaking to this precise question, the answer to the Cleos, did you hear that? They called us the Cleos. It's documented in this case, and it's also documented in the Brady bill, that they called the sheriffs the Cleos, the chief law enforcement officer. And people always ask, where is that? The sheriff is the head law enforcement officer of the county. I said, read the Brady bill, or read my decision. To the Cleos challenge must be sought in historical understanding. Do you know what he does? He takes us through a history lesson. That's it. He doesn't come up with anything new. He doesn't promote Democrat or Republican dogma or policies or agendas. He talks about the history of our Constitution, the history of America, the history of Supreme Court jurisprudence. And you know what he does? He quotes the Federalist Papers. You show me another time a decision talks about Federalist Papers. He quotes about 4 or 5 different statements from founding fathers mentioned in the Federalist Papers. Wow. And therein lies the power of this case. Absolutely astonishing. And I'm going to show you some of this. And we're going to go maybe see a few other things as well. But let's see where we go here and see if I can make this word. I think this will take me to the next one. Yeah. And let's see.
The YouTube video going viral, posted on the internet by 2 activists who brought a camera
Now,
into
this
the
is
Albany
all-
International
this is all we're
Airport
after.
while they passed out flyers.
This is what
Now,
we want,
to a
all
heated
across
dispute
America.
over First Amendment rights. Beth Wortman has our top story. Beth?
Hi, Benita. Well, as you'll see in the video clip, an airport spokesman tries to stop these activists from their mission, but a sheriff's deputy steps in to settle the confrontation and the right to free speech.
So, hey everyone, this is Ashley Jessica. I am here at Albany International Airport.
The young woman is standing outside the security checkpoint at the airport, telling the camera that she's there to hand out flyers to travelers, reminding them of their right to opt out of getting a body scan, which she claims carries health risks.
Hold on. First of all, turn this off right away.
Airport spokesman Doug Myers tells the crew to stop videotaping and to go downstairs, which they agree to do, and they are confronted again.
You have $1 million insurance policy here, you're violating the airport authority guidelines. You haven't paid. That doesn't matter to us at all, okay? So we check that out. No, you're in our airport.
But as the tension builds, Sheriff's Deputy Stan Lennox steps in, separating the 2 parties, then lays down the law.
Obviously, this is your constitutional right, okay? As far as we're concerned, you're not breaking any laws, okay? That's what we want to get across to you guys.
Myers objects, ordering airport employees to allow.
What did he say? What did that deputy sheriff say?
You're not breaking any laws.
We want you to know you're not breaking any laws. This is your constitutional right. What? Who died and made him judge and jury? You didn't have any right to say that. He's doing his job. He's enforcing the Constitution as part of what he's doing as a deputy. That's exactly what he's supposed to do. That's what we want everybody in uniform. If you have a badge and a uniform, this is how you're supposed to. You know, he didn't even throw those people down. He didn't kick them. He didn't beat them. In fact, he told the guy really causing the problem to go back to his office. They're not doing anything wrong. He told them again. And then he says, well, I need to see your identification. The airport authority guy. In front of Stan Lennox, he said that they don't have to show you their identification. He's right again. Why can't we have every deputy doing this? Nationwide. Enforce the Constitution. And then if you get constitutional deputies and they're out there supposed to be writing all these tickets, maybe these guys that would start thinking what I did once. Do tickets violate the 8th Amendment? They don't? You don't think so? No. Well, the 8th Amendment says no cruel and unusual punishment and no excessive fines or death. I think it's cruel and unusual that if I get a ticket, it goes to my insurance company and they raise my rates. That means I'm working for the insurance company. And they get it before it even gets to the city clerk or county clerk's office. What? And then your insurance goes up, and then the frequency of tickets in this country, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry just for radar tickets alone. Not to mention everything else. The tickets are way high priced, they're way too frequent, and they're cruel and unusual because a private business gets to make big money off of it. And so does the city and county and the state. I call ticket writing taxation through citation.
Yep.
Because it's just about revenue. So, this this doesn't play for some reason. I don't know why, but I can tell you. Anybody recognize that lady? She was in the news a lot lately. She's the governor of New Mexico. Her last name is Grisham. And she came out and said, from now on, nobody can have a gun or carry a gun anywhere in Bernalillo County or the greater Albuquerque area. And Sheriff John Allen
I have a fact for you. Criminals do not follow the law or a public health order. Is there a realistic way to enforce this order? No, there is not, because we'll cut that conversation off because it's unconstitutional. So there's no way we could enforce that order.
Then Grisham got really mad at that sheriff for telling the truth. And he was right. And I talked to him a few days ago, and I asked him to come to our event this coming Wednesday. I'm going to ask each of you to come too. Get to Vegas, because this is where we're going to introduce the country to solutions and focus on solutions instead of wake-up tours. Okay? I think we're all awake now, right? Do we need to keep knowing what's going on? Of course. We need a positive, and I say positive, it can be very much negative, but a regular flow of information and the truth needs to be happening all the time. There's some real good news agencies out there. It's just, it's not, well, sometimes it's Fox, but it's never any of the others. CBS, ABC, all of them, no. And have you ever tried to watch CNN or MSNBC for more than 2 or 3 minutes? I mean, it is so, oh my goodness. At least Fox, I can watch them for a little bit longer without getting nauseated. But the others, just so maddening because they're so un-American. And it's just so untrue. And what I said all the way through Barack Obama's presidency and now the same with Biden is that if the national media is with you, you can get away with anything, including murder. Just ask the Clintons. And so, let's keep going.
Now to a News 10 exclusive. A Stockton man wants an apology tonight for a wake-up call he should have never received. It is a story you'll only see on News 10. Lee Painter tells us why police and federal agents knocked down his door.
This is what they did to my door.
At 6 this morning, a SWAT team surprised Kenneth Wright at his front door.
In my underwear. Before I get to the door, I hear him say, hit it. And I get ready to hit the door, and they hit the door. They almost hit me. So I said, hold on. They hit it again. I said, hold on.
But the SWAT team busted in and taking Wright.
They come grab me by my neck and drag me out my house to right there in the grass.
Thrown to the ground and handcuffed, law enforcement then searched his house.
And they put me in the backseat of a police car for over 6 hours. From 6 o'clock to 12:30. They had me handcuffed in the back of a police car with nothing on but my ripped up underwear that they ripped in the yard.
Wright says they also woke his 3 children, holding them for 2 hours. But they failed to find their quarry, Wright's estranged wife. Wright later complained to Stockton's mayor and police, but the city pointed to the U.S. Department of Education.
What? I said, you owe a student loan and you gotta pay it. I just had my daughter.
They're there to collect a student loan with a no-knock warrant?
Wow.
Are you kidding? And she, who had the loan, didn't even live there anymore. But do they care? Oh, they don't care. Oh, man, they don't care. They don't get embarrassed. They just keep right on going what they're doing. And I'm telling you, folks, people say I'm crazy, and we allow that to happen. And this was under Barack Obama. And this black man was treated this way under the Obama administration. And we started really checking this out because they talked to the Solicitor General lady and said, I can't comment on this because this is still under investigation. It shouldn't have been under investigation ever. This is a civil matter. Boy, wouldn't you like to have these guys as your collection agency? Man. So where did the Department of Education get this SWAT team? But the Solicitor General said, we don't go after people for not paying. Yeah, no kidding. Biden's giving it all back to him. Even though the Supreme Court told him it was illegal. He's still doing it. And he just dropped another $9 billion back to these. Oh, does it have anything to do with this age group losing votes to him? He hasn't been doing good during the age group 20 to 35. So he's using our money to bribe votes from that age group. Man, that guy's smart, isn't he? Man. And we haven't even talked about the border trouble chaos yet, have we? Man. Yeah. So he's doing all this, and he keeps doing all this, and we're supposed to all just go along because it's allowed. Because the court said so, or the news media said so. Yeah. So, anyway, the Department of Education, he said, the Solicitor General said, we don't go after people for not paying their student loans. We checked. There were 1,500 more such warrants to be served in California. And then another black guy got it in Houston. Same thing. SWAT team comes after. He was home at the time and saw him coming, and he said, don't bash on my door. You have this come on. So they just went in, told him that he was going to go to jail if he didn't get anything, served him. And they had 1,500 more of those to serve there. And I guess they just quietly got rid of all of them after some of the media went after the Obama administration. Now we have the Biden administration. And so this guy, what a great guy. But yes, this happened during Obama. Okay, what are we doing?
I have a fact for you.
We already did that.
Criminals do not follow the law or a public.
Can you guys turn the channel up there?
Nope, change it for you there.
All right, good. That's where I wanted to go. There are two types of laws, just and unjust. Does that make sense to everybody? Does to me. Okay? I would be the first, and I want you to guess who said this. I would be the first to advocate obeying just laws. One has not only a legal but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, this man said, we have a moral responsibility, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. So who said this? Thomas Jefferson? Me? Who? Somebody really good. You're not a kid.
Is it Madison?
Wait, who said that?
Madison.
Change the channel. This isn't working. Go to the next one. No, you skipped over one. No, leave it there so we don't go after. It was Martin Luther King. Very good. Thank you. Where was he?
Birmingham jail.
Birmingham County Jail. Man, this guy's got the history going. Birmingham County Jail because he was arrested over 30 times and he never committed a crime. Who's fighting? Who was he fighting for liberty? Was he fighting the street gangs? He was fighting government the whole time. Historians never bring that up. Who do you think he was fighting the whole time? Who do you think put him in jail 30 times? It was government that had no clue what they were doing, and now we're still doing the same thing because we're doing it through Sackets and land rights and Jared Bosley, who's going to be at our event on Wednesday, talking about how he had to stand up and save his farm against the Summit Carbonite Extraction Company. And so the sheriff there repented and said he would defend him, but the first time he allowed the judge to issue a court order that he had to allow a private company to come test his property. Ooh, not true. He'll be speaking at our event on Wednesday, and Folks, I want you to look into seriously coming to our event on Wednesday. It's all day long at the Ahern Hotel. Some very staunch conservative Christians own that hotel. And when they called, when this idiot called and told them that they should cancel our event because there were a bunch of radical racists, they already knew us because we had an event there before and said, hey, we know these people, so you're out to lunch and don't call us back. But people are trying to shut us down. And I will tell you the reason why is because they know that this solution of having a constitutional sheriff and taking back our country county by county is working and has worked. It's just not working enough yet. We need to make it bigger, better, and faster, and better funded, I would say. Man, I wish we were funded. But we can do this. You know why we know? You know why we know we're working? Because we're being attacked so relentlessly. And we have them scared. And this guy's a communist that called them. He's with the IREHR. And his name, I'll tell you his name. His name's Devin Gerhardt. And I told him on the phone, I told him on emails, you're a liar. And we're more than happy to meet you anywhere in public. We were even going to have it at the press club in Washington, D.C. Come and let's go public with this. Let's put it on C-SPAN. Let's let anybody cover it who wants to. We're ready to go with you anytime. Oh, no, they won't do that. Southern Poverty Law Center won't. ADL won't. These guys won't. Because they get to hide behind their computers and their pens. And if they have to come out, they're ruined. Because their lives won't stand the light of day. Dr. King said this. We totally agree with it. And I totally agree with Chris Ann Hall and her movies that talk about non-compliance or civil disobedience. We've got to go there. We cannot obey evil government anymore. We've let them go far too long. And these are the things we're going to be discussing on Wednesday. Okay? Yeah, there it is. Okay, turn the channel again, please. Now go forward. Now this isn't working. So, okay? There's the oath of office. We all swear in God's name to uphold and defend the Constitution. How can you not keep your word with such an oath? And do you know that it's required? Let's see. Next one. No, the other way. Right there. The United States Constitution, Article 6, talks about two things. Your oath and the Supremacy Clause. The Supremacy Clause was dealt in my case by Justice Scalia. In this particular one, it says, in this paragraph of Article 6, the senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive officers and judicial officers of the United States shall be bound by oath or affirmation to allegiance of the Constitution. Okay, what I wanted to point out to you is it says the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the executive branch. All three branches of government. Which branch does your sheriff work for? Executive. We are the executors of the law. We certainly aren't legislators, and we're not judges, even though Deputy Stan Lennick did a great job of doing all three. Love him. Oh, he was named the CSPOA Constitutional Deputy Sheriff of the Decade. Love that guy. So we're all supposed to be enforcing the Constitution, yet all three branches of government are different assignments, but we all have the same goal. Uphold and defend, protect and preserve the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state. Wow. What a job we have. What an important job we have. And does any sheriff and deputy understand what their role is in preserving our constitutional republic? And how many times do you see that wonderful word, democracy? Turn on Fox News right now. It says democracy 2024. 2 years ago, it said democracy 2022. And I've even had a guy on Fox interview me once before. And he says, or she said, well, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. So why don't you tell your bosses that? They keep putting up the word democracy. As if democracy is synonymous with liberty. It's not. It's not the same word. What did the Founding Fathers say about democracy? Well, Franklin said it was 3 coyotes and a lamb voting on what's for dinner. Well, that's what we get all the time. Boy, they just outnumber us, don't they? In a republic, the right of the one is protected. The right of, it could be one person. It could be one black person. It could be one Asian. It could be one Mexican. It could be one Christian. It could be one Catholic. It could be an atheist. And 99.9% of the populace votes to have his rights suspended. For whatever reason, who cares? Doesn't matter. And the sheriff has to stand up and say, no, I will stand with him and protect his rights with my own life if I have to. That's the difference between a democracy and a republic, and especially a constitutional republic. Because our republic is surrounded with parameters known as the U.S. Constitution. The most unique form of government ever in the world. That it would make sure that we what? Self-govern. And that government would not be on our backs constantly doing what they're doing today. Read the abuses in the Declaration of Independence that the Founding Fathers listed, about 27 abuses of King George III. Tell me you wouldn't trade those for what's going on today. Good point, huh? All right, next one. What is the purpose of all government? Where do we see that? It's not even in the Constitution, unless some people have said, oh yeah, it is. The preamble. The preamble says what all government is for. I said, no, those are just some platitudes about what they hope comes of our Constitution. And I love the preamble. I know how to do the preamble assignment. We, the people of the United States, in order for. I can do it all, okay? It's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's like a prayer. It does not state anywhere in the Constitution what our government is for. Next one. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. The purpose of all governments are to protect your rights. What did I say earlier? What's the main point? Liberty is the point for all 3 branches of government and for all government. Boy, they just can't focus on that, can they? They've got agendas. And Washington was right when he said that 2-party system would be the bane of American liberty. Because that's what they're loyal to. You know that the way they all work, even Republicans, maybe the uniparty really is real. We could go through that real easy, and I think we'd all be nodding. The worst things going on in our country are both parties. Okay? Who had the opportunity to defund Planned Parenthood right when Trump won? Well, we did. They had Congress, they had the White House, they had the Supreme Court, and the Republicans would not vote to defund Planned Parenthood. A private organization. Now, I own the CSPOA, Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Maybe we should sue to have them fund us too. How they can fund them and not us? Equal protection under the law. That would be a fun lawsuit.
It gives them the right to do that anyways with our tax money.
Yeah. So there's probably no other place to see the utter debased corruption of Washington, D.C. than that issue right there. Amen. We force all of you to pay for abortions. You're forced. We are forced. If you're not paying your taxes, that's all I'm saying. I'm not going to say anymore. They can put me in jail for what I was gonna just say. Okay, good? Okay. Next one. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, what ends? Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and institute new government. That's not just because we vote. And what it looks like to me is exactly what we teach and preach at the CSPOA, what you'll see Wednesday in Las Vegas. Yes, Lindell's network is live streaming. But if you can get there, it's going to be something that you're going to be able to feel and touch and see. But we will never advocate violence, and we haven't. And I'm the most peaceful guy you've ever met in your life. Oh yeah, I've never committed an act of violence towards another human being. The 20 years I was in law enforcement, I never even beat anybody up. Never. I never even slugged anybody. I tackled a guy once, and I stopped two guys fighting by just giving them an old football move. You know, I just went up and gave them what we call on defense, forearm shiver. I gave both of them a forearm shiver, and they went flying down, and they looked at me, what'd you do? How'd you do it? I said, okay, listen to me. You can keep fighting, and I'm going to take you both to jail, or you can split it, and if I see you down here on Main Street, I'm going to arrest you both later. So you can both go home right now. Which do you want? So, as far as I know, they went home. Maybe they went to their girlfriends. I don't know. But they went home. They were no problem yet. Folks, what we're fighting, we can still do this peacefully. And your sheriffs are key to all of this. And you know what? They only have to do two things. Keep their oath when they promised you their oath in God's name when he took his job. And the other one is follow the Supreme Court decision I'm going to show you now. Next one. We're going to skip over a few here, I believe. Next one. Okay, next one. State nullification is absolutely part of all of this. Jefferson and Madison said state nullification is a key to all of this, and it certainly is. Did I make up state nullification? No, but it's a powerful tool. Jury nullification, another good one. We love fully informed juries in this country. Get informed. And then make sure you get on the juries and do your duty. Next one. He also argued that the state should refuse to enforce laws which they deemed unconstitutional. How in the world could that be? How? Who formed the federal government? We did. The states did. The states delegated certain powers to the federal government. So of course they can tell them what's up with that. They're our servant, not the other way around. Historically, what I'm telling you is absolutely true. I know. And that's where the states come in. That's where we all come in. We can make their corruption irrelevant. What we must do, what Madison said, erect the barriers. You cannot erect those barriers without your sheriff. And it would be great to have some county commissioners. Next one. Madison used the word interpose. The states, the counties, the sheriffs must interpose to, look at what it says, that state's legislature, the state legislature, your governor, your state legislature, is duty-bound to interpose its power to prevent the federal government from victimizing its people. That's our job. Another checks and balance system. Next one. Okay, these are the two sheriffs that ended up at the Supreme Court on this case. Sheriff Prince and yours truly. Next one. Look at this. This is right from Scalia. This is New York v. U.S. of 1992. He quotes that case in this case with the sheriffs, with the Cleos. We have held, however, that state legislatures are not subject to federal direction. That quote is right here. Does that sound like they're the boss? If they were the boss, this is what historically would have happened. The founding fathers are sitting around at Independence Hall, and they're trying to devise this new constitution, and they're having a lot of problems because the small states didn't want the big states to control them, and vice versa. And they're not getting anywhere. And that's when they came up with the bicameral system. That they would be one based on population and the other one based on everybody gets the same. Great ideas, super smart. It saved us, it saved the union, it saved the process. I love the constitutional government they established for us. That's gone with the wind, though. No. But this proves right here that the federal government is not our boss. If they were, this is what the founding fathers would have been doing at Independence Hall. Okay, you guys, let's make all these powers, give them to the new central government, which was their biggest concern in the first place. When they were doing the Constitution, they were so afraid that they were going to create another monster. Patrick Henry wouldn't even go along with any of it. And he said he smelled a rat. It wasn't a problem, except that they depended on us to keep our word, and they depended us on all generations from that time forward to do their jobs. And then politics took over, and greed took over, and career politicians took over, and Planned Parenthood took over. And here we are today trying to take it all back and undo it, and we can. And if your sheriff is on board, we can do it right now. And all of them should be. But our goal is to get 1,000. 1,000 sheriffs. That's 1/3. There'll be no stopping it if we do that. We have about 300 right now. And it's not enough. It's not enough. And 3 states don't even have sheriffs. Alaska and Hawaii never had the office formed in their state charters or constitution when they joined the Union in 1959. And Connecticut, the liberal place of that, the liberal bastion that they are, voted the office out of existence in their state 30 years ago. Really stupid. Yeah, we don't want elected law enforcement. We just want law enforcement controlled by other bureaucrats. And they can do anything to us. So they have the police state in Connecticut. No sheriff. Man, look at this. Judge Roll said that he actually talks about the oath of office. This is at the federal district court. He said Mack is forced to choose between keeping his oath or obeying the act. And now he brings up something. Remember the threat of arrest? Subjecting himself to possible sanctions. $10,000 fine or a year in jail or both. Next one. And here it again, they're calling us a Clio. That's in the Brady Bill. If you want to show people documentation, show them the Brady Bill. The sheriffs are the Clios. Next one. This is a threat. Under a separate provision of the Gun Control Act, the GCA of 1968, any person who knowingly violates the section of the GCA amended by the Brady Bill shall be fined under this title, imprisoned for no more than 1 year or both. So now you know what I was thinking about when I was driving home from that meeting with the PATF. And I thought, oh great, I'm going to say no, I'm not doing it, and they're going to send their SWAT team, their Department of Education SWAT team or whatever, Good grief. Next one. Next one. This is Ronald Reagan complaining about our tax system. I think the states need to get involved in the tax structure and the tax abuse and the bullying. The states have got to stop it. Washington, D.C., the Republicans and Democrats are not going to stop it.
Too much money for them.
Yeah. Because with money is power. And they're not going to give that up. And the states have got to do it. And I hope the sheriffs are with them on it. The sheriffs could stop this if they really got serious about it. They could. Next one. Britain with an army to enforce her tyranny. Is that what we have today with all the federal law enforcement agencies? Looks like it. Next one. Next one. That was an IRS agent. Now look at this. I was in the Denver airport way back in 2015, and I saw this headline, and I said, no way. This is USA Today. U.S. drug agents engaged in sex parties. Cartels supplied to prostitutes. Justice Review finds for years, Drug Enforcement Administration agents posted in Colombia engaged in sex parties with the cartels. Well, why not? They're in charge of the border, just. The question is, did this two-tier justice system just happen? Something was going on here. And after I lost my race in Arizona, I moved back to Utah, in Utah County, and I ran for sheriff in Utah County. I thought, this will be a conservative county that will love my lawsuit. They'll just open their arms. And, oh, man, no, they did. It was horrible. It was the dirtiest race ever. And the FBI, 3 days before my election, I won the county convention over my opponent, the incumbent, 2-1. I won. Momentum was on our side. It was looking good. Anytime he and I appeared in public debates or forums, whatever, we both said it was going to be extremely close. He did, I did, the paper did, and the FBI and IRS raided my office 3 days before the election. And the Provo Daily Herald, God bless them, you couldn't have got a bigger headline. It was as big as it could possibly be. Mack raided by the FBI. And then I lost the election badly, and looks like all the undecided votes, of course, switched to my opponent. And then that same newspaper wrote an editorial the following Sunday. This was clearly, well, let me tell you one other thing. My decision at the U.S. Supreme Court came out June 27, 1997. The race, I was talking about the primary, and that's the race is over in the Republican primary there. The race is over, and that was June 8, 1998. 1 year almost to the day. 1 year. So they raid my office and they write up this big thing, an editorial from the newspaper saying it was clear retaliation on the part of the federal government, Clinton administration, aimed at me. Well, after the FBI and the IRS raided my office, guess what happened? Nothing. I never heard from them again. It appears that they got what they wanted, and I never heard from them again. I lost. That's all they wanted. And that was it. Then they do the same thing to Trump, what, a couple years ago, a year and a half ago? And people think this is all them. It's not. They've been political hitmen for whoever is in office. Nixon even used the FBI against the CIA. That's how crazy it got. Yeah, Nixon was crazy. And did anything happen to these agents? Nothing. No reprimand. The only thing that happened, some of them got moved around, some of them got shipped out of Colombia, so they were being bad boys. And but that's like 10 different felonies on these guys. This is really felonious activity. Nothing happened to them. The first female director of the DEA resigned over this. Nothing else happened. Nothing. No charges, no nothing. Next one. Next one. It is incontestable that the Constitution established a system of dual sovereignty, although the states surrendered many, and he's quoting the Federalist Papers, so we can't argue with it, but this is wrong. We did not surrender many. We surrendered a few of our powers to the new federal government, but the states retained a residuary and inviolable sovereignty. If Idaho was really inviolably sovereign, do you think we'd be able to run our own land, our own water, our own education? You would think that, wouldn't you? But we have to bow down to the king and queens of Washington, D.C. Ridiculous. It's our land.
We're a welfare state.
Oh, well, yeah, you have to be. Next one. And then look, Scalia makes a big comeback and he kind of straightens it out. Residual state sovereignty was also implicit, of course, in the Constitution's conferral upon Congress of not all governmental powers. Wait, right there, don't read anymore. They don't have all governmental powers. Have you ever seen a Supreme Court decision saying that the federal government does not have all governmental powers? Here it is. Okay, let's ask ourselves a question. What kind of powers do they have? He answers. But only discrete, enumerated ones, which means you can literally go in the Constitution and you can list, you can number them. You can enumerate the powers they were given in the Constitution. It doesn't even reach 40. That the powers of the they were supposed to be limited. That's what the Constitution was for. The Founding Fathers didn't want a big government. A central government got out of control is what they just fought to stop. Now, so then how do you keep it that way? How do you keep their powers limited and discrete and enumerated? He said, well, okay, it's rendered express by the 10th Amendment. And then he quotes the 10th Amendment. Folks, you've got to understand this. The power of the 10th Amendment. If you read the Constitution and you see the powers the federal government has, they must refer to the 10th Amendment if they try to get creative and give themselves more power. But the states have to enforce the 10th Amendment. The federal government's not going to enforce the 10th Amendment. They're not going to obey the 10th Amendment. We have to do that. Remember, we sued on the 10th Amendment. And so now you're seeing the power of this case and this decision. You're seeing it right here, live and in color. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to it by the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. These are our powers they're stealing, and we go along because, oh, well, the president's Republican, and I'm Republican, I have to go along with him. Or he won't endorse me next time, or I won't get funding, or I won't get... And it all becomes political jive, and freedom and liberty are lost in this ridiculous charade known as Democrats and Republicans. It's really a sad deal, but that's where a lot of it has been lost in that. Will any other Democrat complain about what Biden's doing? Very, very few. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has a couple of times. But very, very, very few. And when the votes come, the Democrats never go to the other side. Republicans do. You just see that all the time. No, they don't. Those are our powers. Okay, look. The great innovation of this design was that our citizens would have two political capacities. Get this, folks. Get it good. One state and one federal. Now look at the line in red. Each protected from incursion by the other. It's our job as the state of Idaho. It's our job as the county of Kootenai. It's our job to protect our citizens from the incursions of the federal government. And the state government too. It's our job. I didn't make any of this up. I didn't write this decision. This is what I was feeling, and I'm telling you right now, this decision went 10 times further than I ever dreamed. It did. There's not another 10th Amendment decision like it. Next one. The local or municipal authorities form distinct and independent portions of the supremacy. The states have more supremacy than the federal government does. Why? They have much more regulatory authority. This is where your lives really matter and what happens to you here. And that's why you've got to have a good sheriff, and you've got to have good county commissioners, and you've got to have a good legislature, and you've got to have freedom and liberty. My goodness. And it's protected in this state. And we will guarantee to everybody that if you move here, You will have public officials that protect you and defend you. Okay, next one. Now get this. Scalia takes us through this. Man, this is powerful. This separation of the two spheres. What two spheres are we talking about? State and federal. Is one of the Constitution's structural protections of liberty. Meaning that if Idaho and Arizona don't stand for our liberty, we lose a structural protection of liberty. You already know you've lost it. Just as the separation and independence of the coordinate branches of the federal government serve to prevent the accumulation of excessive power in any one branch, a healthy balance of power between the states and the federal government will reduce the risk of tyranny and abuse from either front. When you came to this meeting today, did you want to know how to reduce tyranny and abuse? You've just seen it. And Scalia has a couple of more things I want you to see. Next one. He's quoting Federalist 51 on this particular quote. Hence, a double security arises to the rights of the people. The different governments will control each other. And boy, the press just gets so mad at me when I quote that, and they never say it comes from the Supreme Court. Never. Because that means the sheriffs make the decision, and the states make the decision, and we steal that power from the almighty federal government in Washington, D.C. The different governments will control each other at the same time that each will be controlled by itself. Any question as to whether or not the federal government will control itself? Anybody? No. We've seen their control. We've seen it at the border. There's their control. Chaos. Next one. The power of the federal government would be augmented immeasurably if we're able to impress into its service, at no cost to itself, the police officers of the 50 states. That's what they were trying to do. Folks, you know what? If we had lost this case, sheriffs would be reporting to the federal government. Probably all local law enforcement would be subject to federal decrees. And that's why I really wish, I didn't see any way out but to do the lawsuit at the time. I was by myself. What was I supposed to do? No other sheriff in Arizona wanted to do it. And hardly any across the country. 7 did this out of 3,086 sheriffs. 7 did it. 7. And so I didn't see any other way. Because what should we be able to do? What should we have done? The state of Arizona sheriff should have just said, let's write a letter and all of us sign it. Most of us would have signed it, especially where these other sheriffs were cussing up a storm. And send it back to Washington, D.C., send it to the BATF, send it to Congress, send it to the White House, and tell them the Brady Bill will not be enforced or have any place in Arizona. If you're going to arrest us, come on. Nothing would have happened. Every time we've had a sheriff stand against the federal government in this country, and there's been quite a few, who's the federal government really going after now? I said earlier, Catholics and Christians and gun owners.
Pro-lifers.
How about Amish? Amos Miller in Pennsylvania right now is losing his entire farm. He's got a real good lawyer. I talked to him several times. Sam Gerard, who I was working with out of Mack County, Kentucky, got a sentence from this crook of a judge, Danny C. Reeves, a Republican, I believe. Danny C. Reeves gave Sam Gerard 6 years in prison. He served 4.5, and he gave 3 reasons why Sam Gerard is getting 6 years. Ready? He was obstinate. He didn't get permission from the FDA to make a salad out of chickweed. Anybody know what chickweed is? It's not a controlled substance. It grows wild in gardens anyway. It's supposed to help with moles and stuff, and maybe even skin cancer. I don't care. And the other one was, he showed no remorse. Any crime committed in any of that? No. But he gave it to him. And I told his son, I was there when it happened. Chris and Hall and I were both there when this good man got sentenced. And his son came over and talked to me, and I said, what's his name? Jacob, I think. And he goes, I said, if you'll just tell your dad to apologize to the court and to the FDA, he's maybe going to get 6 months. And he said, Sheriff, he won't. He didn't do anything wrong. He's not gonna lie. And I said, I was afraid of that. I thought he's a good man. The Amish, who are so passive, are an easy target for these do-nothing agencies, FDA, USDA, EPA, in Washington, D.C. And they don't have anything else to do, so they start putting these guys in jail and ruining their farms. Amos Miller's lost over $300,000 worth of product, and he's pretty much ruined, and he's still fighting him in court. And it all could have been solved by a sheriff telling the federal agents to leave him alone. Just like Sheriff Brad Rogers did in Elkhart County, Indiana with David Hostetler. They wanted to take him to court because he doesn't pasteurize his milk. And they kept doing spot inspections at his house. And finally, Hostetler called me. And I guess somebody looked it up for him. And I said, I know you're sheriff. Sheriff Rogers is on our constitutional training. And I said, I'm going to call Brad, and I'm going to have him call you. So they did. They hooked up. And Brad went over to his house. Sheriff Rogers went over to his house. And he said, I'm going to stand up for this, and it could get hot for both of us. Are you ready to do this with me? And David Hostetler, the Amish farmer, said yes. And sure enough, Rogers warned the federal government to not come back. And unless they come back with probable cause and duly signed warrants that they are not to come back in this county again, or he'll arrest them. And he even said, for trespass. Good, trespass. Then they threatened to arrest Sheriff Rogers. And Sheriff Rogers and I prepared a statement for him. They quoted, the attorney for the federal government quoted the supremacy clause. And where it said, in pursuance thereof, he put ... He left the requirement to follow the Constitution out. He put ... So I corrected it. And I said, for some reason, you put ... where it says the federal government is required to follow the Constitution. It says pursuance thereof. And so I said, and I quoted 5 other cases from the federal government, including the Prince case. I was ready to help him, so I didn't put Prince in the same case. And they wrote back, and they sent a certified letter to David Hostetler saying that everything against him had been dropped. And they've never been back. We've got to have sheriffs across this country who know the law and have some courage and have the backing of the citizens. And
the sheriff himself was not being what you say.
Oh yeah, totally, yeah, absolutely. I was there too, and oh man, yeah. Did we get lambasted for just being there? I was there. Yeah, so my goodness. The Bundys in Bunkerville, Nevada were completely 100% correct. 100%. And the sheriff could have stopped that very easily. Very easily. All right, next one. The federal government, we have, may not compel the states to enact or administer a federal regulatory program. What does that do to all the CDC mandates on COVID-19? We didn't even, that's what we could have done. We could have laughed at them. It's not going to happen in Idaho. Just tell them it's not. And if the governor and legislature and the counties would have stayed strong, and some city councils too, absolutely. Get those people united, The federal government cannot touch you. And usually, the sheriff can do it on his own with his people, but he shouldn't have to. Other people should be with him. So, one other one, let's turn the page. We're going to go. But the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. This is Scalia quoting another justice from another case. It divides power among sovereigns and among branches of government, precisely so that we may resist the temptation to concentrate power in one location as an expedient solution to the crisis of the day. The title of our seminar, of our conference this Wednesday, is Resist the Temptation. And now you know where it came from. Folks, we've got to resist the temptation. And we've got to stand against those in government who don't resist it. Resist the temptation to concentrate power in one location as an expedient solution to the COVID-19 of the day. It doesn't matter what the crisis is. We do not surrender liberty for anything. And government's role does not change because, they can make an exception, right? Because it's an emergency. It's a crisis. We're taking care of you. We'll give them back to you when we're done. Yeah, they will. And that's why we have to have good people running. And we've got to support good people running for office. And these go along to get along. Sheriffs and sheriffs that refuse to do this. To me, that's scary, and it's just a damn shame, but it is scary. And most of the excuses of the sheriffs that I get are this: I have to win re-election. My retirement isn't where it should be. They're willing to keep their jobs or their money. They're willing to sacrifice your liberty. And I don't think they will. Most places where our constitutional sheriffs are one have to keep winning. Sheriff Prince kept winning as long as he wanted. Sheriff Joe Arpaio went 24 years. Sheriff Arpaio got beat because he was 88 years old. That's why. But the guy that beat him was funded by Soros. And it was no question about it. All the other sheriffs knew it. You talk to the other sheriffs in Arizona, they'll tell you. He was a Soros toy. Next one. This is the order of the court. And now let's go one more and keep going. I want you to read the order of the court later on your own. It's so powerful. Next one. Next one. Next one. Next one. Next one. Right there, play down. Yeah. December 1st, 1955, Some of us were alive then. I was 3 years old. Rosa Parks, a citizen of the United States of America, is arrested because she would not give her seat to a white man. Can you think of anything more stupid, more tyrannical, more abusive, out of complete control government? We will enforce this because we've been told to. And the officers that arrested her did so. Absolutely. And I ask every cop and sheriff now, you ask any of your friends and family in law enforcement, if you were taken back into time, knowing what we know now about our Constitution and our God-given rights, would you have arrested Rosa Parks? On that day, would you have arrested Rosa Parks? You should hear. I used to teach school a little bit, and I had my students have to do that and then come back and report what the officer said. One of the officers said, well, I would have arrested her back then, but I wouldn't now. Yeah. At least he's thinking, because he knew he was caught between there, wasn't he? Oh yeah, I wouldn't do it today. It doesn't change because it was back then. So let me give you what should have happened that day. I'm the only person in America that teaches this and makes this comparison. This is what should have happened that day. It didn't happen, but it should have. So the constitutional sheriff was in the dispatch office when this call came out from the bus driver asking for help. And the sheriff takes the call with Deputy Jones. They go there, they walk up on the bus, they walk up to Rosa Parks. He knew Rosa Parks. This wasn't the first time she did this. And he looks down at her, he goes, Mrs. Parks, what seems to be the problem here? And she looked up at him, she goes, why can't we just be left alone? Anybody else ever feel that? I do all the time. Leave us alone. God Almighty, teach these people to leave us alone. Those Amish farmers are praying for that every day. We are here. I know some of you have been victimized also. And the sheriff hears that, and he's looking down in her beautiful, sincere face, and he sits down next to her, and he says, Mrs. Parks, what you did here tonight took a lot of courage. And it would be an honor for my deputy and me to escort you home safely. Would you allow us that opportunity? She said, of course. Although she was a little bit suspicious. So they escort her home, and they're walking up the steps to her home, and Mr. Parks sees what they're doing. They go, oh no, what happened? And he's yelling, and the sheriff goes, it's okay, Mr. Parks, it's okay. Rosa refused to give her seat to a white man tonight, it's okay. And he yells at Rosa, I told you to stop doing that. And once again, the sheriff says, it's okay. We're going to give you and your family extra patrol all throughout the night and the coming days. But we won't be able to be here 24/7. I'm going to be doing it myself, and all the shifts are going to be required to do it. And we're going to document the time to do it. But we can't be here 24/7. Do you have a gun in the home, Mr. Parks? He says, yes, sir, I do. It's a 12 gauge. He says, do you keep it loaded? And he says, Sheriff, doesn't do you any good if it's not loaded. Because you're right, thank you. And so they did. And they gave them extra patrol. And they protected these people. Remember the rights of the one? That's what our republic's about. Folks, that sheriff is a constitutional sheriff. And that's what we want. This is not out of hate. This is not out of anger. This is one thing. Our love for America and our duty to do our job. I want that in Kootenai County more than anything. I want it in Maricopa County. And And there's a good friend of mine running for sheriff who used to work for Joe Arpaio. Look him up, Jerry Sheridan. Folks, we can do this. We can take back America. Constitutional sheriffs doing this work with you. 1,000 sheriffs in America doing that, there'll be no stopping it. I don't care how abusive or how crazy the federal government gets. There would be no stopping it. Erect the barriers with a good constitutional sheriff. Folks, I've dedicated my life to this. You wouldn't believe the attacks. You would not believe. And it's 10 times more than you've heard, believe me. We can do this, and I'm going to close. Sorry, I'm not going to have time for questions. You can stay and ask me questions, but I just soon not do the questions right now. If you want to stay for the next event, you can. Or stay during lunch, you can. I'll meet with you one-on-one. But I want to close with the Founding Fathers. From the Declaration of Independence, the last line. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. I ask each of you to join us in this holy cause. Each of you can become a member of the CSPOA. Go to our website. Each of you can come to that meeting, maybe not all of it. Come to our conference on Wednesday and be part of this new birth of freedom. You're going to love every second that you're there. The holy cause of liberty, as Patrick Henry called it. We've got to be anxiously involved in that. Our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And yes, we need your donations bad. We haven't even paid for that conference yet. Donate to good people locally. I do not donate to any federal offices anymore. I don't. I still hope good people get in, but I'm not going to donate to them. And I've actually given an endorsement here and there to some of them. I will not donate. My donations are local. Local, local, local. Okay? And I hope I didn't offend anybody who might be running. State officers, absolutely. State senators, absolutely. U.S. senators, I'm not going there anymore. And I only make that judgment by the past. What did Patrick Henry say? I only judge the past, or judge the future, but by the past. What has happened that has helped us in Washington, D.C.? Yes, and I will be bold about this. I hope Trump wins. Okay? But look at the alternative. So folks, thank you. Thank you. And I have a few books up here. I have The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope, The Proper Role of Law Enforcement, and this. This is 3 for $5. And you should be passing these around to people who don't believe any of this. Show them what the Supreme Court said. But the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. Have you ever heard such a powerful thing? Except maybe for hands say double security arises to the rights of the people. Man, what a miracle this is. Take the miracle with you. Thank you so much. God bless you.